So, let's talk about the I word. The I word being impeachment. First of all, a little bit of history about impeachment and what the word actually means. Impeachment means like you're trying to get a president thrown out of office. Doesn't mean you actually successfully do it. In fact, we have never successfully thrown a president out of office through impeachment proceedings. We've came very close, but we've never done it before. So if you think Trump will be thrown out of office as a result of impeachment proceedings, historically that is very unlikely. Very unlikely. Okay, so there have been three impeachment proceedings that have happened thus far in American history. One of them really didn't get that far. The first was Andrew Johnson, Abraham Lincoln's vice president after the Civil War. He was awful. He basically got impeached for being a bad president and for basically doing everything in his power to reignite a civil war in America. And it got all the way to the Senate, and it failed by one vote. Impeachment originates in the House, but the trial is in the Senate. It's presided over by the Supreme Court, and the senators vote. So, failed by one vote. That's the first time impeachment was tried. 1866, 7, something like that. That was the first time. Okay, so the second time is the most famous. Well, I don't know if it's the most famous. It probably is. Was the whole Watergate incident. Now, before impeachment proceedings really began, Richard Nixon resigned. So it really wasn't an impeachment. But if he had really dug in his heels and stayed on, he would have been impeached and thrown out of office. But he decided to resign first. And for Richard Nixon, it was obstruction of justice, and basically being an accessory to a crime after the fact. Wasn't that Nixon himself ordered the break-in. We don't know that for sure, and he probably didn't order the break-in at the Watergate Hotel. But he covered it up and he obstructed justice. And he created constitutional crisis by trying to fire the guy who was investigating him. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Then we have the craziest example of impeachment, the one that my first political memories are of. We have the Bill Clinton impeachment. I remember as a kid at the time, I knew it was like something sexual, but I didn't know what. Because people were like talking in hushed tones about it. They're like, "Oh, Bill Clinton being impeached. Can you believe this? What he did?" So that impeachment was the result of an ongoing investigation into Whitewater, which was a 1970s real estate deal in Arkansas, which was just... It was the Benghazi of the 1990s. It was just a bunch of, to use the word Joe Biden uses, malarkey. And Ken Starr, the special prosecutor, started asking questions about things that, to me, were way beyond the scope of the Whitewater investigation, or should have been, involving extramarital affairs, and Clinton lied. He just straight up lied under oath, which is perjury. So, they basically impeached him for perjury. He was actually disbarred because he was a lawyer. And, the rest is history for that. It was an epic fail for the Republicans because it was clearly ridiculous. It was clearly about Bill Clinton having an extramarital affair. And they were just using any legal justification they could to try and get him out of office. And it backfired. What's interesting about these cases is, how do you impeach a president? You have to prove what are called high crimes and misdemeanors. High crimes and misdemeanors, nobody really can agree on what that means. It's just this vague terminology that's in the Constitution that those are the grounds for impeachment if a president commits high crimes and misdemeanors. In my mind, you could make a case that Trump has, in fact, committed high crimes and misdemeanors. And I say this in a number of ways. First, his leaking of classified intelligence information. He probably has the legal right to do it, but I'm not an expert. But it basically violates the norms of the intelligence community and international intelligence. He's likely violating the emoluments clause of the Constitution, which you can't be paid by a foreign government while you're president, and his business interests are so global and so convoluted, he has to be violating that clause in some way. He has to. He hasn't divested enough. His kids are running his business, and his kids are helping him govern. That's not divesting from your business in any way, shape, or form. Then there was the firing of 3 people who were raising alarm bells about his national security advisor. The first being Sally Yates, the second being Preet Bharara, although Preet Bharara also was investigating other potential crimes in the Trump administration. And then the third and most infamous is James Comey. Comey was directly investigating Donald Trump. And they used a different explanation for as to why they fired him in their written releases. But in an interview with Lester Holt, Donald Trump basically said it had to do with the Russia investigation. And that sounds like obstruction of justice to me. That's one count of obstruction of justice, because there's a second. If the Comey memo is true, and Donald Trump asked James Comey to shut down the Flynn investigation, that is a second obstruction of justice. These are the things that that we went after Nixon for and got him to resign over. This is very serious. This isn't just somebody who doesn't like Trump saying, like, he should be impeached. Like, there is a very, very high probability that if things continue like this, he will be impeached. And he may be the first president to ever be thrown out of office. Because I don't think Donald Trump will resign before impeachment proceedings are over. And you know it's a big deal because you now have several Republicans comparing this to Watergate. You have a Republican, Justin Amash, saying that, yeah, we should impeach. And then, of course, you have a bunch of Democrats who are in favor already of impeachment. So this is a longer video, but this is potentially the biggest political event of our lifetime if it comes to this. So, hope this enlightened you in some way. Like Trump Timeline, share this video, get your friends to like Trump Timeline, all that good stuff.